Have you ever felt profoundly alone in a crowd? Like you're shouting into a void, but no one hears you? Modern life promised connection, but delivered isolation. And today we're facing an epidemic of loneliness so deep and silent, it's quietly breaking our minds. In this video, we're diving into the hidden truth behind modern loneliness, why it's happening, how it warps our brains, and what we can do to heal. We begin with the paradox. We're more connected than ever, yet loneliness is at record highs. Social media, instant messaging, endless notifications. Everything tells us we're engaged, loved, included. We scroll feeds of smiling faces, vacation photos, highlight reels of other people's lives, and yet inside, a gnawing emptiness grows. It's the difference between quantity and quality. You might have 500 online friends, but that doesn't replace the deep, meaningful connections we crave. And when those connections vanish, what are we left with? A brain rewired for comparison, anxiety, and despair. But loneliness doesn't just hurt your feelings, it literally changes your brain. Research shows chronic loneliness increases inflammation, weakens your immune system, and heightens anxiety and depression. It shrinks brain regions involved in self-regulation, memory, and reward, leaving you trapped in a cycle of isolation. Your brain essentially rewires itself to expect disconnection, which only reinforces the isolation. It's a dangerous neurological feedback loop few understand until they're already stuck. So why is society trapping us in this spiral of solitude? It starts young. In schools, community is often replaced by competition. Academic achievement is prioritized over collaboration. Kids grow up learning to win, not to connect. Then we enter a workforce that glorifies hustle, overwork, and individuality. We're told to build personal brands, to be self-starters, isolated achievers. And slowly, meaningful relationships are sacrificed at the altar of productivity. Our living environments don't help either. Urban planning in many cities strips out communal spaces, replacing them with gated developments or anonymous high-rises. Neighborhoods become collections of units, not communities. We don't live next to people. We live above or below them. We avoid eye contact in elevators. We text neighbors instead of knocking on doors. The architecture of modern life isolates us physically, then our minds follow. Technology promised to bridge distance, but instead, it created invisible walls. We substitute meaningful conversation with emojis, replace vulnerability with filters, and trade deep presence for mindless scrolling. Every notification chime becomes a reminder, I'm missing something. I'm not enough. And with each tap, we dig ourselves deeper into a hole of loneliness, so normalized we don't even see it. But how do we break free? The first step is awareness. Acknowledge the epidemic of loneliness as a mental health issue on par with anxiety and depression. Naming it diminishes its power. Once we recognize how loneliness hijacks our brain and behavior, we can reclaim control. The next step is small, intentional connection. Not big gestures, tiny ones. A genuine, how are you? Text. A walk with a friend without phones. A moment of silence listening. These micro-connections begin to rewire the brain towards safety, trust, and belonging. Creating environments that encourage presence is crucial. Turn off notifications. Set intentional no-phone zones. Build rituals of community, shared meals, group walks, casual check-ins. When your daily life includes unfiltered presence with others, your brain recalibrates, releasing oxytocin and dampening chronic stress. You begin to feel seen, included human. But the most radical form of connection starts within. Loneliness is not only a lack of others, it's a lack of self-compassion. When you're cut off from your own emotional world, your isolation intensifies. Practice internal connection, mindfulness, journaling, or just sitting with your emotions. Learn to be present with yourself, holding your own loneliness tenderly. This builds an internal foundation of empathy that enhances every external relationship. It's tragic how loneliness steals from us gradually. It strips our motivation, crowds our thoughts with static, saps our creativity, damages our resilience. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Small, consistent efforts can shift neural patterns. Your brain can recover. You can relearn trust, rebuild trust, yearn for deep presence again. None of this is easy. Connection requires vulnerability. It's uncomfortable to reach out, but vulnerability is the antidote to isolation. A simple confession, "I feel lonely," can open a human portal. It says, "You matter. I matter." And the other person hears it. Relationship begins in that fragile space between two uncertain hearts daring to hold each other. In a society built on hustle, detachment, and speed, reclaiming depth is revolutionary. Choosing presence over productivity, quality over quantity, vulnerability over image. These are the acts of rebellion. These are the hooks that heal our brains, heal our hearts, and restore our capacity for meaning. Modern loneliness is real. It's quiet. It's crushing. But it doesn't have to define our era. Because at its core, we are wired for connection. For shared laughter, shoulder-to-shoulder silence, tears, play, hands held. These primal acts of presence bypass the brain's loneliness circuits and reconnect us to life's warmth. If you felt the ache, you're not alone. You're answering a call deeper than social media highlights. You're waking from a trance of solitude. And every genuine conversation, every moment of presence, every act of reaching out becomes a stitch in the healing tapestry of connection. So ask yourself, how can I connect more deeply today? Who can I call, text, walk with? What ritual can I build to anchor presence? Start small and watch the ripple effect. Because when we repair loneliness piece by piece, we don't just heal ourselves, we reshape society from the inside out. You weren't built to be broken. You weren't meant to live behind screens and echoes. You were meant to be woven into something larger than yourself. And the way forward is simply this, together. Now, here's where most people get stuck. They know loneliness hurts. They feel it daily, but they don't understand how deeply it rewires their brain and behavior. Chronic loneliness isn't just sadness. It's a cognitive virus that reprograms your neural pathways toward expectation of rejection, social threat, and self-defense. Over time, your brain becomes hyper-aware of anything negative in social situations, the offhand tone, the half-hearted compliment, and it turns connection into combat. You become emotionally allergic to intimacy. This rewiring drives a hidden crisis, avoidance. You avoid inviting someone over because maybe they'll say no. You avoid deep questions because, what if they think I'm needy? You avoid making the first move because, what if I'm rejected again? Each avoidance strengthens your brain's belief that the world is unsafe, reinforcing isolation through neuroplasticity. It's an emotional trap you didn't build, but now you're living in it. Meanwhile, you amplify the cultural noise around you. Rapid consumption, superficial social media updates, curated personas, all screaming that you're missing something, that you're unworthy without validation. You become a silent spectator of life, watching others connect, laugh, explore, while your own connection meter drains with each scroll. You become emotionally numb, anxious, depressed, and disconnected from your own aliveness. But there's a subtle shift that changes everything. Micro-rituals of vulnerability. Not big breakthroughs, but daily mini acts of trust. A check-in text with a friend saying, "I'm thinking about you." A moment of honest admiration without expectation. A shared silence without filling it with distraction. These tiny signals of presence and authenticity send seismic ripples through your brain. They build neurochemical patterns of trust, safety, and presence. Oxytocin binds, cortisol falls, and your emotional world gently recalibrates. Rewiring loneliness also involves resisting the cultural current. It's saying no to endless consumption of online life updates. It's deliberately choosing curiosity over comparison. It's limiting screen time, choosing face-to-face time, hosting a meal, starting a local group, cultivating depth over breadth. When you choose presence over stimulus, your brain begins to crave warmth, authenticity, and meaningful engagement instead of the fake intimacy of likes and shallow updates. But no transformation is more powerful than self-compassion. Meaningless as it sounds, becoming a friend to your own brokenness is healing. When you can sit with your loneliness, hold it without judgment, and speak to it with kindness, you signal your brain that you're safe inside, that you don't need someone else's validation to exist. You become your own secure base. From there, your heart opens more fully to others because you're no longer looking to fill a hole. You're inviting addition, not substitution. Of course, it won't be smooth sailing. You'll feel the instinct to retreat. You'll feel the impulse to numb with noise or distraction. Accept it. That's your brain's old software fighting new programs. When that happens, slow down. Pause. Breathe. Choose one small act of connection. A hug, a text, a shared smile, a breath beside someone without saying a word. Tiny, simple, powerful because repeated. One of the most powerful ways to break the loneliness spiral is storytelling in community. That means vulnerability in a group. That means saying, "Here's how I feel," and listening to others share theirs. Storytelling rewires brain circuits. It shows you're not alone. It normalizes pain. It fosters belonging on a soul level. If you've never been part of a circle, start one. Small group of friends, an online group with real-time voice chat, a workshop, even 5 people telling their truth around a table. And here's a secret. When you commit to connection, you don't just rebuild your own brain. You begin to reimagine society. You model what it means to live in resonance instead of isolation. You spark courage in others. You build a ripple effect that shapes culture from the individual upward. This is cultural evolution, not through hashtags, but through humanity. Healing modern loneliness doesn't mean evicting screens or rejecting introversion. It means reclaiming presence, intimacy, trust. It means leaning blindsided into other hearts and realizing they lean back. It means reprogramming your brain through embodied practices, breath, presence, touch, eye contact, shared vulnerability. Maybe you've been waiting for someone to fix this for you. They won't. Maybe you've been hoping society will change first. It can't, unless you do. But reversing loneliness isn't a solo project. It's deeply relational. It begins inside with compassion, expands outward with small acts of presence, and blossoms into collective healing through circles of trust. How can you start today? Look around in the next hour. Who's nearby? What small gesture could shift your energy away from loneliness and toward contact? Maybe it's a text, a hand on a shoulder, a shared meal, or a quiet moment side by side. Not dramatic, not agenda-driven, just human. Because modern loneliness isn't a glitch, it's an epidemic. And epidemics need inoculation, not indictment. Together, we build the inoculation through trust, vulnerability, presence. We rewire our hearts. We remake our brains. We reweave our world. There's a truth we avoid because it terrifies us. Loneliness isn't cured by noise, by crowds, or by more followers. It dissolves through meaning. When life feels shallow, connection feels scarce. And when connection feels scarce, the mind begins to decay in silence. Modern loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about being unseen in a world obsessed with being noticed. It's about the ache of existing without resonance. And this ache grows in silence, feeding on our fear of vulnerability. But meaning doesn't appear by accident. It's built, chosen, and protected like fire in a storm. It begins in reclaiming your inner life, turning inward, noticing what you've neglected. What parts of you have gone quiet? What passions have withered? When you reconnect with what makes you feel fully alive, you reignite the internal signal that draws others to you. People don't gather around perfection. They gather around light. Even a flicker. Another powerful shift lies in presence over performance. Modern society teaches us to curate ourselves, to package our identity for consumption. We learn to trade authenticity for approval, humor for attention, and honesty for applause. But no number of followers will replace the warmth of a single person seeing you as you are. Connection flourishes where masks fall away. Presence doesn't ask for a version of you. It asks for you. And that's terrifying, isn't it? Because we fear if people see the whole of us, the awkwardness, the anger, the quiet sadness, they'll leave. But the paradox is this: people bond with imperfection. Vulnerability is adhesive. It says, I trust you with the parts of me I'm still learning to love. And in that space, others find permission to reveal their own. That's where loneliness begins to dissolve. If you're lost in this modern loneliness, start creating small spaces where masks aren't required. A voice note to a friend where you admit you've been struggling. A post that says something true instead of something clever. An afternoon with no agenda, no posting, no performance. Just existing beside someone. These are the sacred rebellions against the loneliness epidemic. And don't underestimate the power of ritual. Humans heal through repetition. Create weekly or daily rituals of connection. A Sunday phone call. A morning walk without your phone. A monthly gathering of honest conversation. Even the smallest rituals send a signal to your brain. I belong. They provide psychological scaffolding to rebuild the sense of safety your nervous system craves. And here's the strange, hopeful truth. Loneliness is not permanent. The human brain is wildly adaptable. Neuroplasticity means every new act of connection, every moment of presence, every instance of vulnerability literally reshapes the way your mind experiences the world. It's possible to turn a mind wired for isolation into one wired for belonging. But it requires consistency, not a grand one-time effort, but the daily, awkward, beautiful work of reaching out, of showing up, of inviting people into your imperfect, messy, real life, of replacing curated highlights with honest moments. Modern loneliness was built collectively, and it will only be dismantled collectively. Every time you resist the urge to withdraw, every time you replace numb scrolling with a human voice, every time you open yourself to a difficult conversation, you loosen the grip this epidemic has on all of us. And yes, there will be rejection. Not everyone will hold space for you. Not everyone will understand. But the ones who do, those few, become your anchor points. They'll become your chosen family, your sanctuary in the noise. And you, in turn, will be theirs. As we close this conversation, I want to leave you with this. The ache you feel isn't weakness. It's a message. It's your soul reminding you that you were not made for digital isolation. You were made for laughter that makes your ribs hurt, for conversations that stretch past midnight, for shared silence that feels like home. So reclaim your life from the loneliness machine. One brave word, one real moment, one act of seeing and being seen at a time. And together, we can build a quieter, warmer, more human world. You were never meant to do this alone, and you never truly have.